Okay, this is a video for a particular student who had some minor problems in completing Excel 1B, but I thought it would give me a chance to demonstrate a few things in Excel. So there's hashtags that are showing up here, and the reason the hashtags are showing up is because the column is not big enough to portray the result of the formula. The other thing that's going on in this submission is that this doesn't look right. These letters are being cut off, and this doesn't fit warehouse. The E's hanging over here, and then the other thing that I see here is that this is decimals, and it should have been portrayed as a percent with 2 decimal places. So I'm going to show you how to correct this. So there's a couple of ways to fix this hashtag. The easiest way is to come up here between the letters, and there's a line right here between the letters, and all you have to do is put your cursor between those letters, and it has to look like this. It has to look like a double black arrow, and I'm just hovering over it. You notice as I move away from it, it changes. Here, if I move away from it even further, the way that my cursor looks, my cursor has to look like this double black arrow, and then I can just double click and it will size it to the size that it needs to be in order to fit the longest element of that row. Another way that I can do it is I can just size a column just by, once again, my cursor has to be that double black arrow, and I can make it smaller just by clicking and holding and dragging it over. Now they're all hashtags. So I can just click and hold and drag it over the other way, and it will size it. Another thing that you can do is you can grab a whole bunch of cells all at once, and I can double click any of the lines in between the rows, in between the columns. It doesn't matter which one I choose, and it will size all of the columns that are highlighted. So I'm just going to double click, and it sizes all of them perfectly except this one. Alright, so the way that I'm going to fix this warehouse hanging over is I'm just going to grab it, that in between the B and the C, let my cursor turn that double black arrow, just click and hold and drag it. I'm going to undo that. The other thing that you can do is play with this wrapped text feature. So if I click on this wrapped text that's in here in the alignment group, I can just click on that, and you can see what it will do. It takes it from being wrapped into just a straight line, and then I can size it. But I'm not really liking the way that looks, so I'm going to click wrap text again, and then I'm going to size it down so that it's just right there in front of warehouse, and then and now that's looking prettier. Now in column A you have this hanging over, so I'm just going to grab column A and I'm going to pull that out so that now that's not hanging into column B. Alright, the other thing that's going on here, as I mentioned before, is some of these letters are getting cut off. It's the same situation as a column. You can do the same thing with the rows. You have to actually be on top of the numbers in the rows, and you can notice how my cursor is turning a double black arrow. It needs to be like that, not anything else, not a pointer. It needs to be the double black arrow. And I can hover in between the line of the numbers on the rows, and I can double click and it will size it. I'm going to undo that so I can size all of these all at the same time. I'm going to click on all of the rows, click and hold on the first one and drag down, and then I can double click any of them, any of those lines in between the rows. I will double click and it sizes them perfectly. Now this has, the formula was done correctly. I'm going to just cover this really quick because I think some students have been confused about absolute value. So the dollar signs in front of the cell reference E11, so we are getting a percent of the total is what you were asked to do in this lesson, and by putting the dollar signs in front of the formula, it will anchor cell E11, and that's called an absolute value. Now that's really important. If this was a spreadsheet, and believe me, I have spreadsheets that are 100 lines long, and I would not want to touch each of them, and that's the value of using the absolute value, using the dollar signs in the formula. So what it's doing, if I do that, the first time I put that formula in there, and I have the dollar signs in front of it, it anchors it. But you notice that when you copy it down, that it will move to the cell reference from E will move to F. E5 will move to E6 to E7 to E8 without you actually touching it. And you can do it really quick. If I didn't have those dollar signs in there, then this would also try to move. It would try to move to E12, E13, E14, and that's called a relative cell reference. And a relative cell reference would be there if you didn't have those dollar signs there. So that's why the absolute value is such an important thing to remember. So anyway, this was set up correctly, and then I can just copy it down. So that's a quick way to copy. You can grab that little dot that's in the corner, and the book does tell you about this. That little dot that's in the corner will turn into this dark plus sign, that little dot, and I can copy it down. As opposed to moving, the way your cursor looks really does matter. If my cursor looks like this, I can actually move that over, which is not what I want. But so the way your cursor looks in Excel is important. If it's just this plus sign like that, it just is like a highlight. Once again, copying really fast. You can double click, and if there aren't any blank lines and I double clicked, it will copy the formula all the way down until it hits a blank line. So pretty neat. Or you can just click and hold right there on that little dot, and you can copy it down. I clicked and held, and I copied it down. So now this needs to be in a percent rather than a decimal. So I can just highlight the whole column F. It doesn't matter that I have text here because I'm going to format a number. And then all I have to do is come up to my numbers group, hit the percent sign, and it turns it into a percent. But in the lesson, it needed to be a percent with 2 decimal places. So here in the numbers group, and you can see I can do all sorts of formatting as long as this is highlighted. And this is increased decimal, this is decreased decimal. I can't decrease it because it's already as low as it will go, but I do want to increase it to 2 decimal places, so I'm going to click it once, and you'll notice how it added 1 decimal place. I'll click it again, adds 2. If I click it again, it will add 3. I don't want 3, I want 2, so I'm going to decrease it. And so that's how you turn that into a percent really quickly. The other thing I want to do is just to center this so it will look better. So I'm going to just come up here into my alignment group and hit center. And I actually had to hit center twice just so the system knew what to do.